So, we are looking not at the first, not at even the second, but the third battle of Panipat, or Panipat, from the Durrani-Maratha War. So we're in India, I assume again, and yeah, I don't know anything about this battle. I don't know anything about this war, but it was recommended to me, so we're gonna watch it. So yeah, as of this month, I know that we have kind of been moving a bit more into like Indian territory, about like Indian battles and history, which I find really interesting. And like I said, it's an area in world history that I never fully looked into, even in my own free time. But I am happy to kind of be making more excursions into India and learning about its history. So yeah, let's get to it, shall we? Without any further ado, let's watch the Battle of Panipat, 1761, by the great kings and generals.
As decisive and important for the history of India. As the winner of the first two battles of Panipat, the Mughal Empire was slowly weakening due to constant internal strife and external incursions. New powers were rising in the region. Two of them, the Afghan Durrani and the Indian Maratha empires, would meet at the height of their power at Panipat in 1761. The Mughal Empire reached its zenith during the rule of Mu'izz-ud-Din Muhammad, better known as Aurangzeb, in the late 17th and early 18th centuries.
Oh wow!
Under his rule, the empire expanded greatly, encompassing almost the entirety of the Indian subcontinent.
Yeah, look at that. That's impressive. Wow. For a lot of videos that we've seen in India, it's usually always fragmented with many different little tribes and kingdoms. This is probably the first time we've seen now a more, at least a closer to being more whole India. So that's a pretty cool thing right there.
The economy also flourished at the time, with the Mughals overtaking Qing China as the world's largest manufacturer and economy.
Wow.
His rule, however, wasn't without problems. The empire was overextended, and many of his reforms, as well as the executions of the Maratha king Sambhaji and a Sikh guru Tegh Bahadur, led to widespread dissent among the general population and the nobility alike. In 1707, Aurangzeb was succeeded by his son, Bahadur Shah I. The new
Okay, despite his attempts, the centrifugal tendency strengthened during his reign, both due to the discontent in the regions and his own court.
Padishah tried to resolve the empire's mounting problems, but he proved to be far less capable than his father. The decline of the Mughal Empire was only exacerbated after his death in 1712, as almost a decade of succession crises ensued, sending the once prosperous empire towards a perpetual state of decline. In
Okay, oh my gosh. I'm just gonna call him Far. So Far was the first Mughal emperor to grant the British East Indian Company the right to trade as a gift for being cured by an English. Oh, the UK's. You know, there's a point in history I do know that where the UK basically had India under its thing. Like, I've heard about British India. So, this is 1761. So yeah, the British are more. Wait, I'm not sure when the UK's overseas empire really started to like rev up and really started to basically have the world by the balls, as it were. But that's interesting. That the English are already making headway here in India.
1919, also known as the Year of Four Emperors, Muhammad Shah captured the throne, ending the succession crisis. His lengthy reign did not bring stability though, and the empire continued disintegrating. Muhammad Shah, although initially showing great potential, was uninterested in ruling. Due to his inactivity, parts of the empire gained significant autonomy or became functionally independent. By 1724, the Nizam of Hyderabad, Asaf Jah I, had defeated two Mughal armies and made his realm independent in all but name. In 1726, Punjab became de facto independent, Awadh followed the same course, and Bengal.
The only good news of this period was that despite keeping his autonomy, Nizam returned to the Mughal service as a vassal general.
Also slipped away from Mughal control. As always, where one empire...
Oh boy, yeah, it is beyond fracturing. Like, yeah, it just went on a decline, I guess, like, not having capable rulers who could, like, keep things going is just, like, and, like, obviously the eternal strife that he mentioned, just the empire's falling apart, just look at it, just insane.
Falls, another begins its rise. The realm which would profit the most from Mughal decline was the Maratha state. After Muhammad Shah's ascension to the throne, the Marathas slowly began expanding and capturing Mughal forts in the Deccan. Under one of their most energetic leaders, Bajirao I, during the next few decades, the Marathas expanded greatly at the Mughals' expense. In the early 1720s, Maratha armies invaded Gujarat and subjugated parts of it, though their hold on the area would remain weak. Disputes with Hyderabad over the right to collect tribute in the Carnatic region led to war as well. The Maratha armies defeated Nizam-ul-Mulk's forces at Palkhed in 1728.
Okay, things are looking familiar, yes. I think we watched the Battle of Palkhed by History March, where Bajirao completely dominated him just by pure positioning alone. Like, the dude... Nizam looked like a complete amateur against Bajirao. That's how just dominant of a display. And it really was all positioning. He defeated him just by simply outmaneuvering him. I remember that. It was beyond impressive. Bajirao was playing chess. Nizam was playing, like, Connect 4 by himself, you know?
And he was forced to pay tribute and acknowledge Maratha right to collect tribute in the disputed areas. The implications of this...
Yes, Maratha light cavalry proved to be superior against Mughal heavy horsemen. Its speed and agility was too much for the previously dominant Mughals. And we have covered this, where lighter horsemen are able to just outpace their enemies. I could even wear them out. Like, heavier horsemen usually couldn't catch lighter cavalry, and, you know, it could easily wear them down. Like we saw with the Aurelian series, how he defeated cataphracts simply by exhausting them, by forcing them to give chase against him, and they just couldn't catch him until they were just exhausted. Or even like Muhammad, when he first went into India, we covered that from another History March Indian related video, and managed to use his great maneuverability to even escape like the destruction of his army. Like, light cavalry is actually kind of OP, and if used correctly, can, I think, even overcome heavier horsemen.
Battle were far more important than the immediate results. Bajirao defeated the best equipped Mughal army, led by their best general, proving the superiority of Maratha forces. The knowledge learned from Palkhed also made the conquest of Malwa relatively easy after that point.
The 10th anniversary grand...
The Marathas spent most of the 1730s involved in minor campaigns and consolidating their newfound power. The only larger campaign, in 1737, was indecisive, even though Bajirao attacked Delhi and held the emperor for ransom. Seeing no other choice, Muhammad Shah called Nizam ul-Mulk to his aid. Once again, the Maratha forces proved superior, and they decisively defeated a Mughal army at Bhopal, forcing the emperor to pay large tribute and acknowledge Maratha control over Malwa. As always, bad fortune rarely comes alone, and the 1730s also saw the rise of one of the most powerful rulers in Persian history, Nader Shah Afshar. After consolidating his
Yeah, we covered a video about Nader Shah and his great exploits and his, I think, ambition to unify the entire, I believe it was Islamic or world. It's been a few months, but I do know of this man and his great exploits. Basically compared to what the Napoleon of the East, I think is a name he was given. So a very like very great commander, you know. During that period, the Safavid realm was invaded by Russia, the Ottomans, and the Hotak Afghans, with the latter turning the Shah into a puppet.
realm, the Shah.
Nader, a Safavid general from the Turkic Afshar tribe, led a series of brilliant campaigns against the Ottomans, Hotaks, and others. He then usurped the throne.
Who has also been called Iranian Napoleon, and who saw himself as the successor of Tamerlane and Genghis Khan, began eyeing the riches of India. He used the pretext of his Afghan enemies of the Hotak dynasty taking refuge in India to invade the militarily weak but still extremely wealthy empire. In a lightning campaign, Nader Shah captured much of the Indus Valley and Afghanistan and advanced towards Delhi, prompting Muhammad Shah to raise a massive army in response. At the Battle of Karnal in 1739, Nader Shah decisively defeated a numerically superior Mughal army and captured the Mughal emperor as well. The Shah subsequently entered Delhi and
The emperor keeps getting caught. He keeps getting captured, I notice. And Nizam keeps suffering L's after L's. The guy. But yeah, that's very interesting.
city was sacked. A prominent commander in the
Okay. Mughal Emperor's Peacock Throne. Famous Koh-Noor and Dera-e-Noor diamonds, entire royal treasury, many elephants were taken to Iran. Oh wow, dude literally he stole his throne. Oh, the disrespect. But that design kind of does go hard though. Like a peacock throne, that kind of looks really cool though.
Iranian army during the invasion of India was one Ahmed Shah Abdali, a young nobleman of Pashto origin. He was one of Nader Shah's personal attendants and followed him during the occupation of Delhi. During the following period, the Marathas would continue their aggressive expansionism. Successful campaigns in the south and east by Raghji Bhonsle expanded Maratha influence in those regions, most notably the Carnatic. Bhonsle would not be satisfied with his victories and would also capture Nagpur and establish his own dynasty there. A bold and decisive leader, Bhonsle saw the troubles of other states as possibilities for his own expansion. He invaded Bengal twice and had conquered Orissa by 1755, including the prosperous city of Cuttack. The new chief minister, Peshwa of the Maratha Empire, Balaji Bajirao, was not inactive either. He crushed a rebellion by a disloyal Gujarati clan. He also invaded Hyderabad after a succession crisis erupted following the Nizam's death, unsuccessfully, however. Balaji Bajirao fared much better in the north though, pushing the border closer and closer to Delhi as the years passed. Also, by interfering in a succession crisis in Rajasthan, he managed to stabilize Maratha influence over that area as well. As Nader Shah's assassination in 1748 created a
Yeah, Nader Shah was very ambitious, but he had a lot of rebellions, I remember from the video under his hand, so he was not popular, especially as his campaigns and what waged on. So yeah, his assassination was a pretty big one. And I want to comment, it's so interesting, we've seen so many videos, it's always like the East, there's always a new empire. Like, you know, from Persia, the Seleucids, the Timurids, the Mongols, the... Like, eastward, I noticed there's just been so many empires. There's always something new happening in the east. Oh, the caliphates, just like... I've seen, like, over dozens of, like, new empires always established around this area. You know, there's always a new empire, a new name. It's like really interesting. Something about this region eastward, just always a change. And I notice that even further east, right? Like in just the geography of the world, there's always something new. A new empire coming and rising and stuff. It's probably the area in the history of the world with the most change, I noticed. I don't know, I find that's just an interesting thing compared to the West. I mean, that there is change westward, but I feel like the East just has it all the time. There's always something new, which keeps it very interesting. I kind of like that as his channel's progressing, we're slowly moving more eastward, I feel. So yeah.
Power vacuum in Persia. The now experienced Ahmad Shah Abdali used this chance to take his army into Afghanistan and establish his own independent kingdom there. In the same year, Abdali, who now called himself Durrani, coveting the riches of India and seeking to expand, invaded the Mughal Empire and plundered the prosperous city of Lahore. In the next decade, the Afghans successfully invaded India 3 times. In those campaigns, Durrani conquered the Indus Valley down to Sindh and all of Punjab too. He also ravaged Delhi and many other prosperous regions within the Mughal Empire, allegedly even...
Yeah, it's interesting that, you know, a holdover from Nader Shah, this guy, you know, Durrani, basically bailed, made his own kingdom, and made it next to India since he has experience in this region. You know, previously with Nader Shah, and no doubt I think he took note of his previous excursion, though the problem is now that, you know, before he was dealing with the Mughal Empire, which was still for the most part the dominant, or at least the one with the largest piece of India before, and they were weak then. Now he's attacking a weakened Mughal Empire, but he's about to come head to head, right, with the Marathas, who are by no means weak, like the Mughals he faced previously, and who will fight back. So I'm starting to see where the conflict is about to begin.
taking some Mughal princesses as slaves. While these events were happening in the heartland of India, European powers were gaining more of a foothold on the subcontinent, especially its coastal regions, with the British benefiting the most, especially in the aftermath of the Battle of Plassey in 1750.
Okay, the British are coming. I feel like Paul Revere. The Redcoats are coming. The Redcoats are coming. Or, you know, So yeah, I'm starting to see that the British are encroaching, and, again, I do know about British India, so something's telling me that they're about to profit even more from this conflict. Oh man, I just don't know when exactly the British firmly establish India under their banner, but yeah, we must be close to it now, seeing how things are going here.
Against the Nawab of Bengal, Siraj-ud-Dowlah.
Okay, yeah, I was right. Okay, they've already established their foothold right here. Oh my gosh. Yeah, again, the British Empire. The British Empire is impressive because it's the largest empire in the world. And they basically, like I said, they just had the entire world in their hands, which is insane. Yeah.
Marathas continued their.
You know, I keep mentioning this, but I kind of want to look at this. Wait. Okay. British Empire at its height. Let's see. Just how huge this chunker of an empire was. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, so wait, did they explain the color coding? Either way, yeah, we can tell all the red, pinkish pink is under their control. Just look at this all over the place. I wonder how they like managed this. Like, you know, like big empires in the past that were interconnected were too much for people to handle, like the Romans and stuff. Like, look at how all over the place it is. Like, I'm wondering how the administration was and how keeping track of all of this was. Like, something could happen here and like the news would have to. They surely would need a lot of outposts, definitely. But like, this is insane. How was the administration of running this? It would seem to give me a headache just the thought of it. Yeah. And yeah, look, they have all of India under their banner. So we're literally seeing the beginning of it. The moment that kings and generals mentioned the British, I was like, oh, I'm starting to see where this might be going now.
Expansion during much of the 1750s, with most of northern India falling under their control. This brought them into conflict with the Rohillas, and
Rohillas were warrior people living in Awadh since early 1700s. Both them and the Durrani were of the Pashtun descent, and so were allied.
Later their allies, the Afghans. The Marathas launched an invasion into Punjab in 1759. However, this coincided with a Sikh revolt, so they retreated later that year. In 1759, the Grand Vizier of the Mughal Empire removed Emperor Alamgir from the throne and replaced him with the much more easily controllable Jahan Shah III. Alamgir, wishing to recapture his throne, wrote a letter to Ahmad Shah and asked him for protection and to drive back the Marathas.
Oh.
With the Marathas away from
So I think that's a bad idea to invite him, because he's just going to use that as a pretext to take more for himself, right?
Delhi, Durrani marched southwards and laid siege to various forts in Rajasthan. Simultaneously, Durrani's envoys were actively engaged in securing allies for the upcoming battles with the Marathas. The most important of these was the Oudh state in Lucknow.
You're about to lose 40.
The Maratha and Durrani leaders tried to make peace for months. However, both sides were unwilling to make any concessions. This was only worsened after the proud and stubborn leader of the Maratha forces, Sadashiv Rao, captured Delhi in the summer of 1760. The monsoon season was hard on the large Maratha army. Many of their horses and men died due to disease, and they were running out of funds. With his men starving, Sadashiv Rao decided to capture the well-provisioned fort of Kunjpura, some 100 kilometers north of Delhi. The fort was taken relatively easily, and the Afghan commanders were executed. Afterwards, Sadashiv Rao moved his army to Panipat and fortified his position there. Durrani did not have it any better either. He was virtually unable to communicate with the heartland of his empire, Afghanistan, because the Sikhs held Punjab. In addition, his army was also starving as foraging devastated the surrounding areas. Enraged after hearing of the brutal way in which the Marathas took Kunjpura, Ahmad Shah sent scouts to find a suitable crossing point over the overflowing Jamuna River. On the 27th of October, Afghan forces crossed the river, and on the 31st, Durrani arrived at Sambalka. Finally, the two commanders were face to face. In order to properly assess the size of the Maratha army and their military tactics, Ahmed Shah ordered his army to dig trenches and fortify their position. As the Marathas were under the impression that Durrani's forces were in horrible condition, they were surprised to find them in that strong of a defensive position. During the following 2 months, both armies skirmished often and exchanged artillery fire. However, no significant progress was made. Seeing the damage that the hit-and-run tactics of the Maratha light cavalry could cause, the Shah placed 5,000 heavy Afghan cavalry close to the Maratha camp each night, and had another force patrol the outskirts of the Maratha camp. In an effort to dislodge the Marathas, a Rohilla commander also captured the grain stores of Kunjpura in December of 1760. During mid-December, the Marathas sent raiding parties from an outpost near Delhi into Rohilla lands, trying to provoke unrest and desertions among those troops. The raiders were also defeated by the Afghans, and the outpost was captured, with
Okay, so this is a very strong start on Durrani's part. Like, he's caught the Marathas off guard. He has a great defensive position. He is kind of surrounding them. He's working to negate their greatest advantage, which is their light cavalry, capturing the grain here. Durrani, I feel, is dictating the course of this battle. Of this, conflict at the moment. He is, essentially taking and seizing the initiative, while Rao is kind of just being too passive, and he's gonna have to make a move quick, or else Durrani might really put him in a more vulnerable and precarious situation.
significant amounts of food and other supplies being taken in the process. These failures, along with the vigilant night patrols of the Shah, which cut Maratha supply lines on all sides, made Sadashiv Rao realize the gravity of his situation. He offered generous peace terms to the Afghans, however Ahmad Shah declined. As conditions in the Maratha camp became unbearable.
Wow. If he had accepted those peace terms, he would have essentially won. Like, technically, yeah, he would have won the war just by pure positioning. But Durrani ain't gonna be satisfied with a victory like that. He wants an even more complete and decisive victory, which I'm not sure will come back to bite him or not. If he's going a bit too far, if he's maybe gambling when he should, back off now. I don't know. I guess we'll see.
Officers petitioned the High Command to go and fight an open battle rather than starve to death. Left with no choice, he agreed to fight. Although the numbers of both forces are often interpreted as massive, this is most likely a misconception due to the fact that there were many non-combatants on both sides. The Afghan forces are generally considered to be around 60,000 strong, with a large part of those forces being from the Oudh and Rohilla states. The Marathas, on the other hand, had around 45,000 troops. The Shah's own troops numbered around 42,000, with 28,000 heavy Afghan cavalry, 10,000 infantry, 40 cannons, and 200 camel-mounted swivel guns. Shuja-ud-Dawla from the Oudh state had around 3,000 men with him, with similar numbers of infantry and cavalry. He also brought 20 guns. Najib-ud-Dawla of the Rohilla state had about 15,000 men under his command, with roughly a third of them being cavalry. The Shah placed his elite Afghan heavy cavalry in the center and on the extremes of the flanks, and the forces of his allies were placed between them. This move was not just a battle tactic.
Okay, Ahmad Shah knew that both Rohillas and troops from were mainly allied with him due to common animosity towards the Marathas. Yeah, there's an idea of mistrust there must be to some degree. Like, yeah, our allies is because we hate these people, but that doesn't really mean they're loyal to you. It's just we happen to share a common enemy, you know? So that's kind of smart. I think just to keep them, you know, I think that's what he's trying to go for.
But was also meant partially to prevent his Indian allies from fleeing the field of battle in case it didn't go well.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
His centre stretched between the villages of Risalu and Ujja and was led by Shah Wali Khan. Besides the 15,000 elite Afghan heavy cavalry, Wali Khan also had a significant...
Yes, I remember from the Nader Shah video we saw, he used war camels and put cannons on them, which is honestly just so cool. So it's gonna be cool to see the war camels in action. So yeah, the camel-mounted artillery, also known as the Wasp in Persian, was a unit of camels with bombards on top featured in the Safavid, and the Durrani armies.
Amount of camel-mounted artillery with him and 1,000 Afghan infantry. The Afghan left was placed on the plains between Risalu and Siwa, and it was led by Najib-ud-Dawla, who commanded 5,000 elite cavalry and 15,000 footmen, including a large number of dismounted cavalry. The Durrani right was led by a multitude of commanders and stretched from Chajpur Kurd to Ujja. It consisted of 10,000 footmen and around 7,000 horsemen, out of which 3,000 were elite heavy cavalry. Ahmad Shah stayed behind the battle lines with the rest of his troops, so that he could observe the battle and send aid where it was needed. The Maratha numbers added up to 45,000, with the vast majority of the army consisting of cavalry, and some 8,000 elite musketeers under Ibrahim Gadi.
Okay, Hindu Maratha didn't trust French-trained musketeers led by a Muslim officer. Maratha, who preferred to fight mounted, despised the infantry, and that's kind of a problem. I mean, it's one thing not to trust, I don't, it is what it is, but I think I think, the Shah's army composition looks better, you know, obviously with their great, they do have a good amount of cavalry, they have war camels, basically mobile artillery animals, and they have plenty of infantry, so I feel like the composition of the Durrani is much better on paper, at least in my opinion it looks like that. Meanwhile, the Marathas, obviously I know that they're whole light cavalry, I do get that, but like, I feel like there are ways to counter cavalry, and depending on how Durrani handles it, I don't know. Right now, I'm kind of leaning, at least just off the bat, in army composition, the Durrani army just seems more diverse and more balanced in a sense. And, but then again, it really matters, I guess, how these guys use their armies, right? I guess we'll see when it's in action, but right now I'm more like kind of impressed by the Durrani's side so far.
Now made sure to isolate the unpopular Gadi infantry and place them on the extreme left.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's a bit, I don't know, like your only infantry side just all being there. I don't know.
Gadi infantry had most of the heavy artillery with them, while the light artillery was mixed between the right and center. Sadashiv Rao led the center. The cavalry on the left was commanded by Damaji Gaikwa, while the right was led by Malhar Rao Holkar. The battle began on the morning of the 14th of January 1761, with artillery volleys from both sides. Following the cannonade, Gardi ordered his heavy artillery to fire directly on the Afghan right. However, the cannons were not precise, and minimal damage was done. Seeing that, he ordered his musketeers to advance and fire on the enemies. The Rohillas on the Afghan right suffered significant casualties. However, their counterfire killed many Gardis and forced them to retreat behind their artillery. Gaikwa attacked the cavalry on the Afghan right as well. However, he was driven back, with only Gardi musket volleys saving his units from a complete rout.
Okay, that was an interesting start. Not really one favoring one side over the other. Okay, that's an interesting start. No full advantage for anyone yet, at least on this side.
Simultaneously, the centers of the two armies started fighting as well, with artillery barrages being exchanged. The Maratha artillery was effective. However, the lighter camel-mounted swivels of the Afghans dealt many more casualties and even disabled some of the Maratha guns. All of a sudden, the Maratha cannons stopped firing and a loud war cry was heard, signaling a massive charge of the elite Maratha cavalry.
Okay. Again, those war camels are just so cool. You know?
The momentum of their charge was overpowering, and they almost broke through the Afghan lines. The Maratha offensive in the center caused confusion within the Afghan forces, with only the commander's guard holding their ground. Nevertheless, the light Maratha cavalry was not able to maintain their momentum for long, and the fighting drew to a stalemate.
Yeah, and the reserves here from the Durrani side can come into play any time, right?
Ahmad Shah observed the battle from 2 kilometers away and kept regular lines of communication between the battlefield commanders and himself. Having learned of the casualties sustained on the right and of the center almost crumbling, he sent around 3,000 men from his reserve to aid the Rohillas and another 4,000 to reinforce Vali Khan. This proved to be the crucial point of the battle, as Sadashiv Rao neither had any reserves nor did he keep any contact with his commanders.
Yeah, like the Maratha side, between alienating their infantry and now the lack of command. Obviously the Durrani side just has a better communication, and obviously keeping the reserves came in clutch because now you can reinforce any weaknesses that he spotted. Yeah, I think I said earlier, right? I'm like leaning towards the Durrani, and I still am, because I do feel like the Shah is having a much better. He's demonstrated, at least so far, he's showing to be the better commander, and his great communication is paying off. So, again, we'll see if I'm wrong or not, or what the heck is about to happen, but so far, I'm more impressed by the Durrani side, you know?
Najib-ut Dawla, a clever commander himself, ordered most of his cavalry to dismount and his artillery corps to fire lasting barrages at the enemy lines. These barrages were not meant to do any damage, but to provide cover for his footmen as they advanced. Every 400 meters, his infantry erected small walls of sand and soil to hide behind as their artillery prepared for a new barrage. By 1 PM, Najib-ut
Alright, that's a very interesting move. Haven't ever seen an advancing army do that before, and using the cover, so that's smart. He's like trying to get closer, but I guess trying to minimize some damage along the way. Okay, I guess I'm very... That's unique. We've never actually seen that before in all the battles we've seen.
Dawla's forces were 1 kilometer away from their counterparts. This was an ingenious move for several reasons. Their proximity to the Maratha right caused fear among their troops, and it inhibited them from aiding the other flanks. Around one
Genius. Dude, Marathas, the Durranis are running circles around you in terms of leadership. Like, hopefully the Marathas, like, get it together, because right now, I feel like the Durrani side is kind of dominating it in a sense, you know?
PM, as soon as the reinforcements reached the battle lines, the momentum of the battle started to shift. Ahmad Shah ordered all of his commanders to start a massive offensive against the Maratha forces. Shah Wali Khan started putting pressure on the Maratha center with his fresh troops. However, the Maratha forces held their ground. Ahmad Shah finally sent 2,000 of his elite heavy cavalry to attack the Maratha center from all sides. This, along with the constant fire from the camel-mounted artillery, caused many casualties. In spite of this, Sadashiv Rao led 3 countercharges, which, though unsuccessful, killed many Afghan soldiers. Meanwhile, the Afghan right almost completely destroyed the Gardi infantry on the Maratha left.
Okay, so yes, the Maratha right is basically pinned down. The center, which we mentioned earlier were the elite horsemen, are putting up a resistance, but they no longer have the momentum on their side, so they're just kind of fighting back. But we're seeing the cracks, the literal cracks, forming as the composition of the heavy horsemen, the infantry guns, with the support of the war camels, is all too much, even for just these horsemen to overcome. And the right is being, and the Maratha left is being pushed, over here. So just like, again, I don't see, at this point, I just don't see how they could win. This seems like an almost Durrani dominant victory.
And captured Gardi himself too. The Maratha cavalry on that side also began.
Oh no! Oh, they're about to come and attack the center. The horsemen are about to all be encircled.
And retreating in panic. On the other flank, musket fire from the Afghan forces drew a wedge between 2 parts of the Maratha line, which made their advance easier. Surrounded.
Yeah, they lost. They lost. There's no way you can rebound from this. This is an L here.
And under constant fire from all sides, all semblance of order broke down in the Maratha center. Sadashiv Rao, though wounded 3 times, fought bravely before he too was killed. This was the final nail in the coffin for the Marathas, as the rest of their forces were subsequently slaughtered or routed. The Afghan forces chased the fleeing Marathas and slaughtered many during the retreat. Accounts regarding the number of casualties vary depending on the sources, though modern estimates agree that the Maratha losses were around 30,000.
Oh!
Over 20,000 of the non-combatants were enslaved, and the Afghans also took 700 elephants and thousands of horses and camels.
My goodness, a complete stomp. Like, again, the Durranis just had better leadership, better coordination, better communication, a better army composition. Like, they had it, man. Wow. That was a complete stomp there. That was a dominant, decisive victory, if I've ever seen one.
Afghans lost between 10,000 and 20,000 men, most of whom were from the Rohilla or Oud state. As both sides were exhausted by war, the peace treaty was fairly mild. The Marathas lost control over parts of northern India and had to recognize Alam II as Mughal emperor, but besides that, not much changed. Though Durrani won, his position was not enviable either, as he was unable to follow up on this victory and quickly retreated to Afghanistan. In the following decades, the Afghans and Rohillas struggled with the Sikhs in Punjab and failed to capitalize on their new position. In contrast, the Marathas under Madhav Rao began a revival and expanded their influence once again over the north. In the end, this did not last either. Decentralization and infighting among Maratha nobles severely weakened the empire in the decades after Madhav Rao's untimely death, and the Maratha Empire, as well as Indian independence, met their ends at the hands of the British in 1818.
Oh my gosh. All this fighting to see who will rule India, and the British just did it. Again, the Durrani had that was definitely a victory, but I'm not sure I'd call it strategic, because in the technically, yeah, they won the war, but what I mean is, in long term, not a victory. The Marathi, oddly enough, kind of rebounded much better, but fell apart, and now the true winner of the war is the UK. Wow. Dude, I knew the moment he first mentioned the UK in this video, I was like, oh, wait a minute. Wow. They were just looming there, just chilling, while everyone else was fighting each other. It's always the ones you least expect, guys.
Ushering in a new age for India. We have more videos on the history of India on their way, so make sure you are subscribed to our channel and have pressed the bell button.
Okay, that was cool. Yeah, that was the battle. That was an interesting battle. Now we finally saw the end of the independence of India, as it, fell under the banner of the Imperial UK Empire. So, yeah, that was a really cool video. I really loved that.